Max here, Muscle World. I'm here today to react to Commando, Britain's Ocean Warriors Episode 2. Okay, so something's happening here. The guys are deployed on some maritime operation. I'm assuming it's an operation, possibly could be always be an exercise they're getting ready for, but looks like they're getting tooled up, they've got their weapons. So it's hands-on action stations, something's happened, they're probably going to go on board a suspicious vessel, or could even just be a routine search of a vessel. So what's happening here, the guys will have very limited time. They've basically got to get up, run up to the armory, get their weapons out, get all their kit on, and then prepare then for the boarding operations. Whilst this is happening, the Navy side of things will be preparing the ribs and also the coxswains, the LCs, basically the people who drive the boats for the Marines. They'll be getting ready as well, so they'll all be going for different areas. Probably have a very quick brief about what they're going to be doing, which I'm sure we'll be seeing now.
So, final brief, lads. There's been no change to what I previously briefed, so this dive is still heading south at around about 7 knots. No fishing gear seen, no crew seen on deck at the moment. Obviously as we go in we'll get that sort of updated picture from Gundog. Very similar to the dives we boarded before.
So out in the Gulf now, the guys will be working this. They won't just be them on the boats, they'll have a helicopter with them that will be probably supplied by the Navy, but sometimes it's not. When we did this quite a lot actually, when we did this quite a lot, sometimes it'd be multinational, because we did it part of the coalition task force. So it's not just going to be the Marines by themselves, because that caused a problem back in 2007, where a couple of colleagues of mine, they were actually taken hostage by Iranians because of the failure in all these systems. So they put things in place now to stop that from happening, and to make, even though it's a routine check of a dhow, it's probably just a couple of fishermen, but it's just to make sure that everyone's safe and that if something does kick off, they're ready to go, because they were caught with their pants down quite a few years ago.
Troop Commander Joe and his team of 6 Marine Commandos are conducting a raid on a vessel suspected of helping to traffic illegal narcotics to the UK.
It's really important for the UK populace to feel protected and safe. That's why they employ us. We volunteer to come out here and do this. You should be able to, you should be able to live sort of free and safe. That's what we're there to provide. That's what I'm paid to do.
Zero, this is 10 Bravo, ready to check over.
These kinds of operations are really important because they essentially prevent drugs, particularly methamphetamines, heroin, reaching the streets and causing harm.
Guys doing a radio check before they go out, because there's nothing worse than going off the target dhow and then not having comms with the mother ship. In this case, looks like it's going to be HMS, whatever they're on. When they look into these dhows, they're boarding them, they'll be checking to see. They'll be checking the crew, they'll be checking their passports, identical documents, they'll be doing intelligence checks as well, but they'll also be searching the vessel, they'll be searching for hidden compartments. The guys here will be trained to search to quite a high standard, quite a lot of time on this dhow. If it's not suspicious to go in there, it's clearly a fishing dhow or a fishing vessel, then it won't be so long. But if it actually is a suspicious vessel and they are deemed to be carrying some kind of weapons or contraband, like it could be weapons, it could be drugs, all sorts of things. It could be people, it could be terrorists on board. That's why they're tooled up, but they'll be going there, they'll have equipment that they could literally chainsaw, they'll be cutting through the walls, they'll be smashing things up with sledgehammers, just to find this any illegal items that they could be looking for. That's not always going to be the case, they're always going to go on there smashing things up, but that's only if they believe that there are things there. In my experience, most of the time they are just normal fishermen, so I'm not going to be getting really excited here and thinking, oh, they've jumped in on a big one here. Because it's so rare that you find these type of ships. It would be quite a coincidence that it just happens to be the same time that there's a camera crew on board that it happens. But I am aware that in use a few months ago that they did stop a dhow that was carrying quite a fair bit of drugs on board. So this might be the video documentation of it. I'm not going to hold my breath, but the guys here, they'll be so professional, they'll be so well trained, they'll take every job as if it's going to be high risk. They're not going to get complacent, they're not going to go on board and go, it's probably just a fishing dhow. They'll go on board ready for anything, and hopefully we'll see that now.
Your sort of normal desk job. We'll make our weapons ready, final checks, the ladders are ready, the med bags are prepped.
I've done my final radio checks, and quite literally, there's now bullets in the chamber. And then we're released into the water, ready to close with the target. And my lads are checking now, where can I get those ladders, or what can I do, what's the threat?
What the guys do now is they will be looking at everything. As soon as they see that down, they'll have had intelligence reports of the helicopter will be doing a circular route on it. They'll have information, but then the most important thing for the Marine is their own eyeballs and their own mind, and they'll be looking around and they'll be communicating with each other. Oh, okay, that's a good bit there, we can grip onto that one. And they'll also be looking to see if there's guys with weapons, because sometimes in this situation it's happened before where suddenly these fishermen, an AK-47 will appear and suddenly they're no longer fishermen. So it's very important, very crucial now what they're going to be doing. But the guys are going to be ready for it because they've done it so many times, they're trained to do it. They'll just be looking at it, routine for them.
My lads into a dangerous situation because I'll be right there with them. The lads are armed, equipped, trained. This is what they do.
They're going down, he's gone downstairs. Sit down, move forward!
They're not looking to hurt people, they're looking to do their job.
Each time they leave HMS Montrose, they have no idea what awaits them. In 2021, 67 tons of illegal narcotics, which could be worth over £144 million, were intercepted by patrols here.
Pushing past now, mate. You're gonna get a bus today, do you reckon? I knew it as well, so mate, it's your call. There's nothing on this one.
But this time, there's no sign of any illegal contraband on board.
We try to get on side with them. We'd often sometimes bring in fruit and bottles of water and all sorts of things with them, and we try and get a bit of a rapport with them. We get talking with them about football, things like that.
I think that was our 13th day that we boarded, so probably a bit unlucky, but we couldn't find anything, and now we'll go through the procedure back on board and get ready to go again tomorrow.
And that's the thing, it's not every dhow out there is up to something dodgy. A lot of them, they are just fishermen. Sometimes they're pirates, but most of the times they're fishermen. I've spent a lot of time out in this area here, in the Marines, and also doing private security. Most of them are just fishermen, and it's very rare that you come across. Regardless of what you see on the news and what you see on these sort of programs, you very rarely come across pirates. You very rarely come across terrorists out in these places. They are there, but it's very, very, very rare that you do come across them. Because if you imagine the scale as well of the ocean, it's absolutely huge. It would be like one police car trying to drive around the UK and hoping to find a couple of drug dealers in the UK, who could be anywhere in the United Kingdom. That's just the sheer scale of the ocean they're trying to patrol here. So the chances of them happening to come by a dhow that's got drugs, unless there's some strong intelligence that points them in that direction, then it is difficult to find these ships that are out there. Guys will be coming back now, and they'll be sitting tight. They might have some jobs to do, whatever, on the ship, but they'll probably also be doing a bit of training, watching a few DVDs, relaxing, maybe have some food, and then they'll wait for the next call. So they're saying it was the 13th dhow they've done. Don't know how long they've been out there on this deployment. Now, I remember when I was doing it, some days you'd be boarding 4, 5 dhows, other days you might just board 1 or 2. Depends what's going on, depends where you are, depends on the traffic in the area.
At times it's challenging physically, early starts, late finishes, you've got to make high pressure decisions.
I'm on a dhow in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It's me. It's me and my team, the buck stops there. You worry about the threats, of course, but I don't worry about the lads' ability to deal with it, not one bit.
With just a handful of Marines selected for each deployment, competition for a place on board HMS Montrose is fierce. And the route to earning one starts back in the UK.
The tasks that we're expecting our Marines to do are a lot more different and diverse than they used to be. But as for the individual, the commando training stays the same, the commando values stays the same.
Stand by, 3, 2, 1, go!
If they get selected, Royal Marine Commandos will deploy on Royal Navy ship HMS Montrose.
We're the Maritime Special Operations Commando, and we have a wide variety of different roles that we can do. So we have Royal Marines boarding teams, which is what we were doing on HMS Montrose. There is the Joint Personnel Recovery, JPR. They're out in Norway. We stand ready for all sorts of tasking. The fuel tanker crisis, coronavirus response, we'll do anything that's asked of us.
Yeah, so things have changed a little bit from when I was in. So I think this is a different unit altogether than what I was in. I don't think my unit exists anymore. But it seems to be a similar sort of job. So we were tasked with doing things like boarding, stuff like that, the anti-piracy when that was a thing back in the 2000s. We were also trained in things like non-combatant extraction operations. So like when it was kicking off somewhere and they needed to get British citizens out, they would have people trained and ready to go and deal with that. They'll be on standby for all sorts of things. They are literally there, drop of a hat, they might be on leave, they get a phone call. It happened to me several times when I get a phone call, right, 24 hours and be back at base to do this. We could deploy pretty much anywhere within the world within about 24 to 48 hours. And we were, even when we were on leave, like sometimes I was going on holiday. I remember I was going on a trip to West Wales with my girlfriend. Phone call, no, second thoughts, Max, you're not, you're going to the Middle East.
I think it was when I was 10, I saw an advert on the TV.
When he was 10, oh thanks mate, you make me feel very old now. Right, that's it. Alright, I'd word of myself. Stop being a snowflake, Max. 2009 I think this advert was, if I remember correctly. Something along those lines. One of my favourite one actually. Let's see 99.99% apply. Let me know in the comments what was your favourite advert for the Marines. Let's see what we're going on here then.
Weapon. There's a bootneck walking through, it's like a jungle setting, and he goes through the river.
It can overcome hunger.
And I remember looking at it going, like, what the hell is that? That looks amazing.
Royal Marines Commando. It's a state of mind. You may already have it.
It was the other way around for me. I saw that advert and I thought, bad drills, he's being ambushed here. But, I don't know. And I think this is when they just came up with a new It's a State of Mind campaign. Like, so I always like the 99.99%, apply, love that. And then he went down this dodgy way of doing these weird little commercials where they had guys just walking down the street and guys just playing football. I was like, okay, well, don't join the Marines to go and hang out with the guys and play football. Then he started doing these type of adverts here. They were a little bit sketchy, wasn't too fussed on them. They were okay. Then he started getting a lot better, and I think they peaked with the spider advert. That's possibly my personal favourite. Let me know in the comments, guys, what's your favourite advert?
Before I joined the Corps, I worked in a call centre back in Manchester. It was very monotonous and just not really for me. So.
I can relate, yeah, I've worked in call centres before. Not a fan, not a fan.
My dad's a Royal Marines Commando still.
I think I was a few months old at his pass out, so I went to his pass out parade when I was a little baby.
And I've sort of grown up around it. I've seen the lifestyle it offers, and it just seemed like a bit of me. It's what I wanted to do in my life.
To prove that they have what it takes to be part of the team on board HMS Montrose, Tommy and Liam have undergone specialist training, designed to teach them the unique skills required to board and secure a moving vessel at sea.
So what the guys are doing now is they're practicing for fast roping. Now, they will be doing this on a helicopter, and the aim is that they'll be doing it all from a moving helicopter onto a moving ship in day or night, and that ship that they're going to be going on is going to be moving up and down side to side, and they can do it from up to 60 feet. There is a capability to do it 90 feet, but I believe that is mainly reserved for special forces that do it from that high. But you don't really want to be going that high anyway when you do it, because it's going to take the guys that long to go down the rope. The fast roping needs to be down, bang, 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 as many guys as you can, as quickly as you can, down this rope, helicopter, move on, because otherwise the helicopter's just sit and duck. So before they do that though, they need to prove that they're fit and strong enough to be able to do it, and then they got to practice it. So it'll start off with obviously they got to pass their commando training, they got to do all the fitness stuff as well, but But then it becomes another test, it's called the hang test, where you basically get the rope on its apparatus there on here, fixed from, we used to have it on the side of the car park, the multi-storey car park, and then you just basically have to jump up, and you have to hang on to this rope, which is it's quite a slippery rope. So, because obviously it's designed for the guys to go down real quick, and you have to kind of hold it real tight and squeeze onto it, and you actually practicing what is called the brake technique on this. If you needed a brake or slow down, you would do this technique where you'd turn your hands like that, and you'd either slow down or brake depending on how fast you were going and how hard you were turning. You've got to hold that for 25 seconds, I believe. Most guys can pass this. Then after that, then you've got to complete a series of like fast roping, or well, you're not static, but the rope is static. So I think you go do 5 of those, if I remember correctly, before you can then move on to doing the helicopter version. You do the helicopter version, you've got to complete a certain amount of ropes, successful ropes with the helicopter, usually onto something like a helicopter landing platform or the car park or something, or into a field, before you can get signed off to be part of this team and be able to do it on operations. And you've got to do this every 6 months to keep that tick in the box. So the guys are always trained on it. On top of this, they're doing all their other things as well. So they'll be doing the weapon handlings regular, they'll be doing a fitness test regular. It's constant, with the Marines, it's constant. Even after they've got their green beret, that's when it just begins. They're constantly having to learn new skills, and they're constantly being tested on these new skills as well to make sure that they can still perform doing operations.
On the boarding courses,
we never had it in the crash map. Personally, I'd rather not have it in the crash map, because you want to hit the hard ground, because we would have to go down bang and then run straight off into all-round defence. So purpose of the crash map, don't really know, bit dramatic I think. I mean, is a crash map going to stop you if you're floating all the way down? I suppose it might reduce some of the injuries, but I mean, this crash map, ankle's going to go in a weird angle anyway. I mean, I did hurt my ankle fast roping out of a helicopter before, because you are wearing all the kit, and I always had the gigantic chainsaw on my back.
It's definitely bettering yourself as an individual, making yourself more desirable, and being able to get a decent deployment on a decent ship, doing actual decent boardings and feeling like we're actually making a difference.
Yeah, always feel pretty cool when you're on the ship, on the rib, that's what they're on their rigid whole inflatable boat, especially when it can go quite fast. Great feeling when they're just blasting it on the boat, going so fast, and particularly in the Gulf, it's hot, so you just want to go real fast because it cools you down. And you're wearing all the kit and the body armour, your helmet, you get very sweaty, very hot, very sweaty. So it's always nice when they could just let rip on the boats, on the ribs, and you get a bit of speed on. Always really enjoyed that. On the flip side, when you're in places like Scotland and it's absolutely freezing in the middle of winter, and it's snowing and it's hailing, and you're having to go do 40 knots on one of these ribs, it gets very, very, very cold. You've got to have a balaclava on and all sorts just to keep yourselves warm.
The boarding course is a very, very specialised course. It does make sure that people are ready to do this job. You know, we've got to climb a lot of ladders. We can do high access, so the container ships and the oil tankers that you see, they could climb the side of one of those damn things. That is a tricky thing to do, and it requires a lot of physical endurance. There's a reason why very few people do it.
Very difficult to do that. It looks easy. Now, they're on a stationary boat here doing it. They've got to get, if you've ever never been up next to the side of a container ship, they are massive. So you've got to get a very small hook basically attached to the top of the ship, or something you can clip onto, and the guys have got a cave in out of here, and then you've got to climb up it. Now try doing that when that boat's moving, it's going up and down, your boat's moving, it's going up and down, and they've got to do it quickly. One wrong move, and if this guy goes in the water, he slips on this rope, he goes down the water, or he can take a step going from the rib, he times it wrong, he's going under with all that kit.
I definitely had a fear of heights, but during training where you do all the vertical assaults as well as your abseiling and stuff like that, I feel like I got over it there, gripped hold of the rope and then threw myself over the edge.
So cable ladder gets at the top, first man, he is literally pistol out, bang! Because you don't know what's going to be at the top, there could be a threat at the top, he's got to get up there as quick as he can, and the first man has got to be ready. Very important job, that first man, because he doesn't know what he's getting into. Once he's on, he secures the top, the rest of the guys then are able to come up behind him and support him, but it's very tricky. That first guy, there's a lot on him in that role. There's a lot on him. He's going to be the very first person that comes up against whatever's there. Sometimes it's a friendly fisherman, sometimes they might not be very friendly, but he's the first person. So it's always good to have someone switched on, maybe someone who looks quite tough at the start as well, to get at the top, somebody who can take charge of the situation, because he's going to be by himself for a few seconds, which will feel like a long time before the rest can come up and start taking over the area.
It works is I go over with a pistol drawn, and I'll always coil up like a loaded spring, pop over and have a look, so that I'm not showing too much of my body. I'm scanning before I get on. You never know what to expect. So if I did have to take a shot, I feel like I'd be ready. I trust in the training, I trust in myself as well as the reasons why I'd be doing it. It's not just myself that'd be in danger, it'd also be the rest of my team. And I wouldn't want them to get hurt on my account of not being able to do my job.
I really enjoyed the boarding course. You do a lot of shooting and a lot of fizz. Make some really good friends, learn a lot of stuff about yourself. Good fun.
Young Officer Sam is preparing for the next step in his commando career, a grueling cold weather survival and warfighting course that takes place deep inside the Arctic Circle.
Royal Marines, they operate anywhere, and like just there's two extremes. Now, they're going to be going out, these guys are going out in the Gulf when it's going to be 50 plus degrees. I remember in Iraq, I think it was 55 degrees at one point. It's very hot to be running around in your body armour and all your kit and your helmet. This other gentleman here, he's off to Norway to do Arctic training. Now that is like kind of like a rite of passage for a Royal Marine. Now, I didn't actually go to Norway. I spent most of my time out in the Gulf, so I guess I'm half a Marine because I didn't do it. But yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see this, see what they.
Cold weather warfare and operating in those environments are pretty unique to the Corps.
The Royal Marines have protected NATO's strategically critical northern flank since the 1970s. Every Royal Marine in the Corps must undergo this survival training if they're to deploy in the cold weather environment.
That next big war or campaign, it could well be in those environments and up towards the north. If anything was to happen, that front to our east is going to be pretty important, and it is cold in the winter months. If we can do anything to counter that, it's going to be endure and sustain ourselves and be able to fight in those conditions.
So I mean, you seem to say that quite diplomatically there, but you're absolutely right. If you go into that area there, you're not trained to operate in cold environment, and this is cold. I mean, this is well into the minuses. Then you're just going to have a load of casualties if you just get a load of guys. And I think someone commented on one of my last videos, and they said something like, "Oh, you just need a load of conscripts in your army. You don't need to have highly trained people, no matter how hard the training is or how good the training is. You don't need to have that." But if you chucked a load of untrained people and just threw them out in the snow, -20, if not colder, and said, "Right, okay, you got to survive here now for 3 weeks, and then you're gonna have a big fight with the enemy, and then you're gonna survive another 4 weeks then out here, and then you're gonna have another fight with them." They're not going to last long. Most of them are going to be dead within probably the first 24 hours. They're not going to be able to survive. So, very crucial that you guys are having this training. I'm going to be interested to see it now because it's something that I didn't get to experience, purely because of the rotations, and he's saying that the people have got to do it, so they do seem to be pushing it a lot more than they were before. I guess when I was in the Corps, it was a bit more stretched. We had loads of people out in Afghanistan. We had my troop were out in the Gulf doing quite a lot of things. So I think now they're trying to rotate people through Norway a little bit more now, from what I've seen. I follow the Royal Marines on Instagram now, so I have seen that they do seem to be out there quite a lot at the moment.
Get back out in the field. There's like boxes which I want to tick. I want to go to the jungle. I want to go to Norway.
I've never deployed to a cold weather environment before.
It's going to be pretty cold, but
it's just skills that you haven't learnt yet. It's nerves, but it's nervous excitement.
2 of those bags are just full of stuff which people would like, creature comforts. There's a kettle, extension leads, wine gums, some extra socks. There's all sorts there. I went to New York over winter. That was pretty cold, but there's always a nice cafe to duck into and re-warm. I don't think I'll find that up in Norway.
Yeah, I think be a bit of a shock. I mean, Britain, it's not that cold here. It doesn't seem to be as cold as what it used to be. So in the last couple of winters, I think it hasn't got that cold. Maybe it got cold, but it hasn't been a sustained, in the minuses, loads of snow constantly. It's like it makes the news when the snow comes now. That's how infrequent it is, unless you're on the mountains and things like that, in which case it is. So I did a lot of time I mean, I've been to Norway, I've been to them kind of cold places, and the coldest places I went to the Falklands, and in the winter that was fairly cold. But a lot of time in Scotland, up in the mountains over there, and I've been up the Brecon Beacons in Wales quite a lot when it's been cold as well. But I mean, that's still not compared to Norway, where they're going to be going here.
The high north of Norway is a harsh, raw environment. It is constantly trying to harm you as a human being. From the moment you land to the moment you leave, it will test you. It will test you mentally and it will test you physically.
So mountain leaders, they're very, very difficult to get into. They are, so you get the Royal Marines, or do the Royal Marines training, they'll get to there, and then if they're so inclined, then they'll go off and become a mountain leader. Very highly trained. These guys are, they will even lead special forces into these type of environments, because their training is so unique, and they're just trained as how to survive, they're trained on how to climb, they're trained on cliff assaults. They will be the ones that will go up in front of the commandos, the special forces, Marines, the rig to get everything set up, or the rigs for the ropes for the troops to go up. Very highly trained. I don't think they get the credit they're due, but they're not as well known as, say, special forces counterparts. But I would probably put them up there with special forces in terms of their skills and what they can do, and just how tough these guys are. So if he's saying it's a tough environment, I'm going to listen to him. You listen to what the mountain leaders say, because these are the people that will teach you how to survive. If you don't listen to these people, then you're not going to survive. They're very, very important. So all of the stuff I've had mountain training in Scotland, not that it's scale. I mean, I'm no Wim Hof. I've done a bit in the cold environments myself, outside of the Marines, when I've gone up and done my own things, on swimming in cold lakes and stuff like that. But I've always taken into consideration stuff that they've taught me. The mountain leaders taught me on any kind of courses I did, and I put that down to, I think if I hadn't done that, then I'd probably be in a worse state in some of the situations I've been in, because I've put myself in some quite dangerous situations in the cold before. Very dangerous environment, which can go from being all fine to you are about to die in seconds. That's how important it is to listen to these mountain leaders, and the guys are going to experience this now firsthand, and I think we're going to watch it.
You're in quite a few dark places.
Yeah, it doesn't feel too cold at the moment, to be fair. I'm sure that'll change.
Stepping off the plane, and I just didn't want to fall over, first of all, because even the airport is just like permafrost, is frozen. And the next thing was the tops of your ears. That's what's first to go.
For the first week of the course, Sam will be pushed both physically and mentally, as he's taught and tested on how to sustain himself 200 miles inside the Arctic Circle, where temperatures can reach as low as -50 degrees.
Just got there. First thing you need to learn to do is basic survival, how to survive, because they're not going to start doing any advanced stuff. They're not going to start learning how to do combat drills if they haven't learned how to survive. So that's what we're going to see here now. We're going to see them making fires, we're going to see them creating shelters, we're going to see them learning what to do if they get covered in water. I'm sure we could probably learn stuff from this as well as we go.
If you don't pass the survival week and prove that you can sustain yourself in that environment, then you're not allowed to progress with more complex tactical training. The survival week is pass or failure.
I'll be your ML for the duration of this course. Been an ML since 2013, all right, and you are my survival course-wise, I think you're my 13th course. There is absolutely no shortcut when it comes to safety, especially out here.
With everything that's happening now and where the world sits, we can't limit ourselves and ignore the high north. We need to be able to operate as efficiently as we do in the desert and the Gulf.
Sam's training begins by learning the specialist equipment and procedures that will keep him alive once the group deploy out into the Norwegian wilderness.
So the survival course is all about sustaining themselves for that week. Preparation is key because of what the environment can do to you.
In the UK, you you're doing about 3,500 calories, over here you burn about 5,000 to 6,000. So as you can imagine, ration packs are about twice the size nearly of what you carry back home.
Because of the environment, they're having to keep warm, and travelling in snow is a lot more difficult, so they're going to be spending a lot more energy. Ration packs here, you can see 5,000 to 6,000 calories per day, and that's what they're going to need to be doing just on a daily basis.
When I told my mum that I'd got into the young officer training, I think she was very proud, yeah. I got a phone call, and yeah, it was pretty emotional, because the selection process does take a very long time.
Very, very difficult becoming as an officer in the Marines. I believe they do it twice a year, they do it in batches, whereas with regular recruits they've got to do, I think it's when I was in it was every 2 weeks, or every 4 weeks. Is it every 2 weeks? Yeah, every 2 weeks I think a new troop came in. Young officers, I'm pretty sure it's twice a year, and they put a lot into it. They've got to go through a massive selection process where many aren't successful, and once they begin their training with Limestone, a lot of their fitness tests and standards have to be very high. Most of the officers I met in the Marines were pretty good, decent guys and decent leaders as well.
I do, isn't it? 2 of these?
Yeah, 2 of those, yeah, they're in pairs. Large ECW.
I'm pretty sure I got that flask. It's a brilliant flask. I've had it since 2005. Still going strong. I've been used nearly every day.
Try them on, see how they fit.
These ones you have to wear on camp?
Yeah, and also in the field you might wear them quite a bit, so you want to make sure there's a bit of dexterity to them.
I think everyone in this job likes new experiences and likes to push themselves, otherwise they wouldn't be where they are. Sometimes you just got to make yourself go outside your comfort zone.
Okay, having an impaling injury, this is something that made them bleed, or getting shot, for example. Okay, so again, having something wet on you is something that needs to be taken off.
I've worked hard to get to where I am. You know, the training it isn't easy by nature. I'm just grateful I am where I am, and you know, doing the job.
Not only is he new to Norway himself, he needs to learn everything that's happening and also instruct and manage his team as well.
So this guy's an officer, yet he's going to be getting instructed with the rest of the men by someone who's not an officer. I think this guy was a sergeant, I might be wrong, but that's what the Corps is like. So the officers themselves, even though they might outrank these people who are training them, they've got to show humility here, because they are in the mountain leader's zone. This is what they do. They've got to learn from the mountain leader, but like you said then, they've got to learn to survive themselves, whereas the rest of the Marines will just be learning themselves how to survive. He's going to have to learn how to survive himself, go through all that the men are going through, but then he's also got to learn to motivate and inspire his troop to go and do whatever it is they're going to be doing on exercise and possibly in combat.
Expectation put on his shoulders.
Yeah, but we need to go to stores anyway at 4:30 for the skis and that anyway.
Only 4:30, is it?
Yeah.
On top of a deployment in an unknown and punishing environment, 22-year-old Sam is also responsible for a troop of Marines in his role as troop commander.
22 years old. So we saw in the last episode we had 16-year-old guys, they were doing the commando training. This guy's 22 years old. He has got all these guys under his command. He's got probably 30 odd guys, highly trained guys who've got to listen to what he says, and he's got them in an environment where things can go wrong. He's learning at the same time. He's going to be managing these people. He's going to have to do all this. I think that's an awful lot for a 22-year-old guy, but it just shows he's taking it in his stride. I have absolute faith in this guy. He's going to have the right training. He's going to have the right direction. He's had those. Had the right skills. But he's 22, and now you try and imagine what you were doing when you were 22. Were you in a situation where you were in a hostile environment that's new that you've never been in before, and being expected to lead a team of 30 plus guys with such complicated things, learn how to survive, where the difference between life and death is like that. Things can go wrong so quickly in this environment, and look, he's doing well. I've worked with managers and things like that who, as soon as the pressure goes up, they start screaming, shouting, and being horrible to people. This guy here, he's doing really well, so I'm looking forward to see how he gets on with this.
I'm obviously quite young. That was quite nerve-wracking and a bit of consideration when I was going through training, because a lot of the lads are older than me. But I don't think they view that. I don't think they see that. As long as you've got their respect and you're doing the job that they need you to do, then they'll follow you.
It's Sam's final morning on base, and having learnt in the classroom how to survive in the frozen Norwegian wilderness, it's time to put it into practice.
With the Marines, everything's always, you learn in a classroom, or it might not be a classroom, but you learn the theory behind things, you need to understand everything about it. So that's pretty much everything you do. You'll sit down, somebody will tell you the outcomes of it. In this case scenario is going to be the cold weather, so they're going to tell you what can happen, how to recognise cold weather injuries, what can happen to you if you don't look after yourself, so all those things, what can go wrong. They'll tell you about the kit, how to survive, all the different tactics and techniques on how to survive. And now they're going to go put it into practice. They'll have demonstrations, and then they'll have to do it. So everything's explained to them, then everything's demonstrated to them, and then they have to imitate that, and then it'll be tested on it to make sure that they've taken it on board.
We're going to get inspected. Just make sure we've got all the right kit.
Okay, so we're going to kick this inspection off then.
MLs will always inspect them before they go. They'll be making sure that they've got everything that they need, particularly the safety kit. They'll be making sure that they've got their flask full up to the very brim.
What I want to see now is all of you in full HIG suit, white face mask, goggles, hoods up. Some people are missing hoods, some people's lips are popped, and some of you have still got dark lenses in. 50 star jumps.
So even though these guys have finished training, they're still getting punished by some kind of physical exercise because they haven't done what the ML said. That's how the Marines operate, and particularly with MLs as well, they take it very seriously. Look, he said to them, I want you in this situation, I want you in this rig looking like this. He's put the pressure on, he's shouted at them, he wants it done in a very little time. He was inspecting them, so they all stand in line, he walks along, he looks at them, he knows straight away that there's a few people who have not done what he said. 50 star jumps, wearing all this kit as well, they're going to get quite hot. In training, you're absolutely terrified of the mountain leaders. I always remember we went to our first training with them, they just beasted us and thrashed us, and I just remember, like, okay, I'm scared of mountain leaders. These guys are not people you want to mess with, and they are very concerned to make sure that people do not do the opposite of what they say. Very important what you do what these guys say.
Okay, are we all warm enough? Yeah. Do you need rewarming again? No. No, didn't think so. Okay, you can see how good and how efficient this kit is if it's worn properly. Anyone got any questions? Happy? 11 minutes, away you go.
When it comes to operating in this environment, there is a fine line between complacency and sort of respect. There needs to be a constant sort of balance and an understanding that this environment can hurt them. I need to give them as much experience and knowledge as possible, which means a lot of moving around on the ground, which then gets them understanding how to move through the terrain and how the snow can affect the terrain and their speed of movement.
So yeah, so very, very difficult travelling in the snow. You notice they've got a lot more kit, they've got the big skis, they're going to be showing how to use that very shortly. Now this guy, he's a bit of a hard ass, but he's got to be like that, and what he's saying there is being complacent, okay, there's a fine line between being complacent and having respect for the environment, having respect for what they're being taught and where they are and what could happen to them if things go wrong. But as he said earlier, being prepared is what stops things from going wrong. And not only that, once you've been prepared, it's learning what to do if things do go south. He's here to teach them this now. He's coming across like he's nails, he's a tough guy. He's not acting up for the camera here. He's not like one of these SAS Who Dares Wins programs where he's acting up for the camera and trying to scare these people for the TV show. This is real life, and the guys here need to learn, and they will learn because of the way he's teaching them. It's not a Mickey Mouse civilian course where you just turn up. Well, I've been to countless ones of these where you can just turn up high to the back and you've just got to be there to pass the course. Every single one of these people are going to be watched. Every single one of them is going to be inspected. Every single one of them will have to pass the test, several tests, to be able to get the green light and go and move on to pass this course.
The wind is coming across us here, and if you look over there, you can hardly see the mountain line or the hills over there. So it's probably going to get quite snowy. In 15-20 minutes maybe.
Yeah, I was a pretty outdoorsy kid. It was like a bit of a battle between me and the council as to how quickly I could put up a treehouse versus how quickly they can take them down. Yeah, I was always in the woods as a kid, yeah.
Beats the office, doesn't it?
I left school at 16. After sitting in an office for a couple of years, I realised that that's definitely not for me, and I needed something a bit more challenging and something testing, and this is exactly what the Marines has offered me. Everything I'm doing, I'm always chasing that hard training. I realise that's the direction I sort of need to be travelling in to test myself, potentially put myself in a sort of bit of a bad place, but to learn and grow from it as a person. Some people do come with a slightly skewed view of Norway, thinking that it will just be a bit of easy skiing for a few weeks. However, they're sort of brought back down to earth quite quickly.
It's very physically demanding, yeah. Whether that's on snowshoes or skis, movement is just very, very slow. That's probably one thing I underestimated, was how physical it would be.
So these guys are super fit. They're 1 year out of training, they've kept up their fitness, and they're sitting here now, well, they're standing there saying that this is very physical. Just shows you need to be trained, you need to be fit, and then once you get to Norway, you're just beginning again, so you need to start and be trained again there. So they're learning new stuff now. They may not have done this operating the snow before. They're operating with skis and snowshoes. Challenging environment, walking through the snow.
That was emotional at times, yeah.
So Marines, when they say emotional, I mean like, it was quite tough. Like they had a few dark moments. It's a kind of a colloquial thing that Marines say. I mean, he's not saying it was emotional as in he was sitting there crying or anything like that. That's just what it means. Oh, it was a bit cheeky, it was a bit tough in places. It's part of the Marines' humour. That's what he's saying there, and he's saying it with a smile as well, because with the Marines, that's all part of the ethos. It is, having that sense of humour in the face of adversities. When things are tough, you're smiling, you're laughing, you're having a joke about it. Always keep that smile on your face.
All right, lads, 2 of the tents on the left, and then 1 on the right.
You can see.
Just arrived there, they're hanging out, they're going to be exhausted now, they're going to be really tired. They're probably similar to like running a marathon, something like that. They're going to have that many calories expended from them. They're going to be challenged away here, they've not been done so before, they're going to be freezing cold. If they stop moving, they might be quite warm underneath all that kit because of the exertion. Now the troop commander, he's going to take charge. He's going to say, right guys, we're setting up camp here, he wants tents over here, there and everywhere, because I imagine it's going to be getting dark soon, I imagine it's going to be getting cold soon. They need to be in position, they need to quickly set their accommodation so they can sort themselves out. A few of them might have blisters, sort that out. They can get some food on the go, and they can also shelter themselves from the environment, which is very important. They need to do that very quickly. So this is going to happen. It's going to be a very quick turnaround with this. It's not going to be them chilling out and sitting about and lying about relaxing. It is going to be them, bang, get to work, set up camp, and then whatever the ML has got in store for them next.
Just setting the tents up, adding brushwood, etc. And then they'll be getting in there, and they've got approximately a few hours to sustain themselves, which is the important part of this first week.
As temperatures drop to below -10, it's still a long way off the -30 limit that will stop the exercise.
Any problems at all? Nope.
crucial.
Physical personal administration is where the Marines have got to look after themselves. Very important. People don't think about this side of it. It's very important. You've got to look after your feet, you've got to look after your boots, you've got to look after yourself. Because if, say, you get frostbite, maybe your socks are soaking wet and you don't change them, then you can get problems with your feet. Once you get problems with your feet, then it can become very difficult. You could end up with frostbite, your toes can start falling off, and you're going to really ruin the operation if you're on operation, because they're going to have to try and get you out of there.
We'll just get them into outfits or into a pair of gloves for a minute. Just a little bit cold.
Sure.
All right.
Do you want to see some baby puree? That's what we're really after. It's some sort of fruit custard. It's like baby food on steroids.
Being in a cold weather environment, you know, the need to stay positive when it is cold is clearly important, but we're all very, very like-minded people who have the same sense of humour and are going through the same thing. And it's not hard to achieve a positive attitude when you're all in the same boat.
Do you know what? I spoke too soon, that's not too bad. If you put a crumble in a blender, that's what you'd end up with. That's not bad at all.
It's pretty nippy. It's why we're cooking outside, because we were pretty much outside anyway, inside the tents, because the doors were open.
Sam and his troop are up before dawn for their second day of survival training. Their first job is to clear their position ahead of moving out of the area.
So this is what they've got to do now. So they've basically gone to wherever it is they're going. They've had to survive the night. Looks like they all have done. And now they're basically going to take down their camp and head off somewhere else. But they're going to have to do so without leaving things, because every single person is going to have to collect this stuff.
And up at 5:30.
So, looking for ground sign that they've potentially left behind, little things that can potentially ID us as forces.
There could be an enemy looking for them, there could be an enemy tracking them, and that enemy could look at them and work out who they are. Like if they find a pile of rations, for example, a load of rubbish, they'll know, look, there's British forces in the area, they'll be able to see how long ago they were there, they could follow them.
It's all fun and games, isn't it?
I've not had a proper look round your position because I don't think I need to. I've got here, it's a little label off your clothing. You can easily type that into Google, so you can almost ID who we are just off that. This isn't just an aggressive camping trip, all right? You're here for a purpose, to operate in this environment effectively, okay? This does not fly. Again. Do we get that? Let's put these Gore-Tex mitts on. Okay, once your mittens are on, press up, position down. Okay, you at the back, stand up, who's laying down trying to mug me off. You've got your white gloves on. Stand up! What the do you think you're doing? Put your mitts on now. 50, go! I've told you about the thermal properties of that white glove. Putting them in the snow, you're an idiot.
I am seething now.
Sergeant Bonwick is a very interesting character. He's clearly very, very knowledgeable, very, very experienced. And he gets his point across.
You don't even walk around camp with those stupid gloves on, do you?
But that's just his style of teaching.
Every course we run, especially in the cold weather environment, is done in a safe manner, and safety is key. We are training at the end, and as much as it looks like I don't want everyone to finish, I want every face that comes on my course to get through at the end.
You shouldn't have to explain that, and I think for some reason these days people think that because he's shouting at them, because he's being a hard ass with them, that he doesn't want them to succeed. He's doing that because he wants them to succeed. And like, people just get so upset these days. It's like the teachers who shout at you in school, and like these days now the teachers aren't allowed to shout at them. The teachers aren't allowed to say things to them. Like, the kids get upset and they run off to go tell their parents, and they come running back and they say, "Oh, teacher said this to me today," or crying, and the teacher gets pulled into the classroom by the head teacher, and they say, "Look, you've got to be nice to these kids." It's kind of like that, and he shouldn't have to explain that. This guy here, he's doing this exactly as he said. He's doing this to get these guys to pass a course, and he's done it by saying, "Listen to me, I'll explain what to do, blah 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 blah." He's done it. He said, "Look," he's gone through the thermal properties of the gloves, so much so that even I know, just watching this, that the type of gloves, when he said the mitts, I knew what gloves they had to put on. I knew exactly what they were doing. That I knew they were going to go do some press ups, but for some reason that guy at the back, he's put something else on. He's done the complete opposite. Yet for some reason he hasn't even looked around to see that he's got different gloves for everyone else, and yet he still continued. And that's really wound this guy up, this sergeant up, and I don't blame him. This guy has just done the complete opposite of what he said, which could cause a problem, like even frostbite. That can cause his hands problems if he has selected the wrong bit of kit. And now, because they've just had to do this, they've had to do 50 press ups in the cold, in all that kit, in the snow for that guy doing that. None of them are going to make that mistake again. I like his methods. I think they work. Let me know in the comments what you think. Definitely works, and those guys aren't going to make that same mistake again.
Having already trekked miles across frozen ground on barely any sleep or food, Sam and the others are now about to be pushed even harder.
I think we live quite a comfortable lifestyle. In general, everything's easy, everything's quick. It's so easy to go down and get a pizza or avoid the gym or just sit and watch TV, whereas being in this lifestyle and being out in different environments, having to work constantly 24 hours a day and be constantly tested and pushed, it just changes your outlook on life, and you learn to enjoy everything a lot more and appreciate everything a lot more to a sort of different level.
Welcome to Fosmerfelt training area. Purpose of your visit today, survival. What I want to happen now, you are to take your day sack out and place it in front of your Bergen. Hold. From there, you are to sanitize it of all contraband. And contraband is anything other than the following items: bivvy bag, Higgs suit, flask, goggles. Some of you probably questioning me there, thinking he's not mentioned food. You don't require food. All right, if there is food, I will dish it out to you. Maybe a fish, it may just be a carrot. Depends how generous I'm feeling and how good your shelters are looking.
Survival X. So we did something like similar to this in recruit training, not in this extreme environment. So they should have some idea of what's going on here. Now, what happened, he's told them what he wants them in. They need to have a certain amount of kit, very minimum kit, and he'll be inspecting them afterwards to make sure they're not trying to smuggle things in. The idea here now is they've got to survive, probably be about 24 hours. Now he says you don't need food, and that's because you can go weeks without eating. You've got I think it's about like 100,000 calories of body fat on your body that your body can tap into. So in this situation here, the thing that's going to kill them first is going to be the weather. The cold weather is going to, if anything in here is going to kill them, it's going to be the cold weather. They can survive 3 days without water. Well, 2 days really before they start really going downhill. They're going to be tested now to make sure that they can set up a shelter. They don't have their tents on them anymore. They're going to have to make something, live off the land to be able to survive 24 hours with just the minimal kit that he's said here. Interested to see whether anyone tries smuggling anything. It made me laugh when the guy, when he said no food, and you just see the guy, he chucked the chocolate bar or something in his mouth as he was eating it. Made me laugh.
Having been stripped of all but the bare essential pieces of kit, They must now build a shelter and fire to stop them freezing to death for as long as they're kept in the wilderness.
So I would recommend, okay, building yourself your shelter of choice, and then preservation of firewood, etc. You'll then light your fires once your shelter is complete. And that is it. Go.
They're going to be left to their own devices now. They're going to be probably split into little teams, perhaps, I imagine, where they'll all have an individual shelter each. I don't think they're all going to be in the same one. They will then have to survive the night. They'll have to build their own shelter. They'll have to get their fire. They'll have to try and keep the fire going. So it'll be somebody's job will literally just be look after that fire, keep it going. The ML, he's going to leave them. He'll come back and check on them every now and then, but he's not going to be there instructing them. He's already told them what to do. He's already told them the types of shelters you can build. They will have a bit of an idea anyway of what type of shelters they can build, using whatever's on the ground there.
Just get some brushwood. There's nothing on the ground. I don't know what everyone else is going to use, Jen. The brushwood at the top.
Ridiculously, that is so slippy and so dangerous. Yeah, it's not on. Especially in this area, all around. There's cut off, broken trees for a training serial, which is what this is. Absolutely not. Yeah, he should not be doing that at all.
That is the last thing you want. He's up the top of a tree. He's just climbed up. He looks like he's about 40 foot up there. He's just climbed up that tree. If he falls, like he's going to die. He's up a slippery tree. There's going to be ice on there. Why is he? And he got an ML down the bottom shaking his head. That's probably why he's climbing up now. He's probably not going to want to come down. I wouldn't want to be that guy coming down. He is going to be in trouble. The ML, I think he's keeping his voice down. He's not screaming and bawling at him purely because he doesn't want this guy to slip and fall. I imagine when he gets down the bottom, he is going to be in serious trouble.
Get the down right now. Me and you are going to go and have a conversation.
What are you doing? Like, what's that on your chest? This here. What does that mean you are good at?
Thinking.
Exactly. Thinking and leading men. That is your primary role, isn't it?
So.
All right. So with that, if you were to fall from that, look around you, all these branches sticking up, going through you, innit?
So.
What do you think's then happening?
It's going to cause.
You're dying. You're dying.
Yeah.
That is an absolute no-go. That understood? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go away.
Are we allowed to use it?
Yes, because you've got it, and for that reason alone.
So.
All right.
Yeah, apologies.
Go.
Thank you.
In a realistic survival situation, 100% you'd be up in that tree, or you'd be cutting the tree down and bringing the brushwood to you. So there's other ways of doing it that are safer.
I didn't want to mention where I used to work as a tree surgeon, but... Right, let's lift and ship some timber from here. Pretty much straight through there, you'll see Captain Pearson.
We need to find the longest piece we've got.
It's probably the last one, I reckon. How are we doing?
Good.
I think that's enough. If we start lifting those logs over here now. A bit further. A bit further, we'll keep it about a foot.
Well, do you want to get the floor logs done first?
Yeah.
So you notice how they're working in teams. Some people are building the fire, some people are going off to the woods to get specific logs to build the A-frame of this shelter. All having to work together.
Looking forward to eating that. The potato or the onion?
So looking around now, they've built pretty much, from what I can see and what I've seen, some good shelters, so protecting them from these elements and sort of making sure they can sustain themselves in this environment. The next port of call from there then is to generate heat, so they'll make their fire, and that'll sort of keep them going throughout the night, heating their shelter, keeping them going.
When they get there and they start building the shelter, they're going to be kept warm. So you might be looking at them and thinking, oh, they're fine, they're okay, it's alright, they're moving, they keep themselves mobile. But as the night creeps in now, it's going to get a lot colder, and at some point they're going to have to sit down and rest and sleep, and that's when your body temperature is going to drop dramatically, particularly if they're lying on the floor. You'll lose all the body heat from there. So that's why it's so important they get the shelter there, and then they create the fire then to keep it heated up.
And then from then on, it's just sustaining themselves with the food that they've got, melting snow, etc. And focusing on that sustainment just in a slightly harsher condition. Okay, so the best flooring I've seen so far. Right, hoofing. All right, I thought I'd come and lay in here to see how good it is. All right, it's pretty hoofing. All right, you've done your basic sort of insulation, haven't you? And then you've done the brushwood. All right, pretty good.
Yeah, I think you liked it. He says it's the best floor he's seen so far. Said the fire pit was a bit close to the bedding, on bed fire, which is fair enough. But there's not a massive amount of room, but it's actually really warm in there. I was colder last night.
Something like that.
Onion soup. Unbelievable scenes. I wouldn't look too closely, but
there is onion.
It's water with some onions floating in it. Look at that. Majestic.
From a personal point of view, this is absolutely a phenomenal experience, and they'll learn a lot about themselves. A lot of team cohesion will go on. They'll have all sorts of strange and random conversations around the fire where they're cooking and eating, and it'll bond everyone together through this sort of harsh experience.
You cold?
Nah.
You're cold wherever you sit. I was warm over here.
I was bombers over there.
When you're in that survival shelter, you just start having all sorts of strange conversations, yeah.
Where Bryce is sitting now is the best place to sit. Because you've got the fire and you can lean against a tree.
You find out a lot about people. The range of subjects that you get into is probably scary.
I'm a hand model. Friday night? Yeah. I should be on OnlyFans.
Right, I'm going to take my pants off now.
So these guys are all living in very close proximity, and later on they'll be spooning each other. That's how close you've got to get. Like, you imagine if you're a civilian in your civilian world, can you imagine doing that with all the people in your office that you work with? But these guys, this is what they got to do. And like, I've slept in these type of conditions, maybe not this cold, but shelters when I was in the Marines, and we lived in a shipping container for 2 weeks. There was about 8 of us living in the same shipping container, all on top of each other. So you just sit there. Sometimes you've got nothing to do. There's no entertainment, there's no Xbox, there's no places, no TV. So you talk. You play games. Simple things like throwing a stone in a little tin, moving a tin further away and trying to throw a stone in it. You do things like that to entertain yourself, stuff that you may have done, or we may have done as a kid, before video games, before all these sort of things. You go back to that kind of route, and it is quite nice, because as a society, as people, we've become so far apart. We're not able to kind of entertain ourselves anymore. And it's quite sad to look at it in terms of how society is that way. We've always need to be stuck to a device. You go on a train now, every single person on that train is like that, glued to their phone. People don't look at each other, people don't talk to each other. I remember going back years and years and years ago, before mobile phones were a big deal. You go on a train and you would have some real interesting conversations with people. Kind of like what these guys are doing here. They've kind of gone back to how it was before all that tech. And like, we used to go on a train, and I used to remember I used to catch a train regularly from Glasgow all the way down to London when I lived in London, and Glasgow all the way down to Cardiff when I lived in Cardiff, and big triangle kind of thing. And like, sometimes you get the all-night train and you'd sit down, you'd have a couple of beers, and you'd sit next to somebody, or you stand next to somebody, and you'd be there with them for 8 hours, and you just have a nice chat with them. You never see them again. Kind of like being on a plane as well, I guess. Doesn't happen these days, and it's interesting to see how, take away all that technology and people put people close together, They're gelling, they're bonding. There's nobody arguing here, there's nobody fighting, there's nobody bitching about each other, they're not stabbing each other in the back or bad-mouthing each other. They're all working together because the whole point is they've got to survive together, and they're going through this hardship, should we say, this harsh environment together where they've got to learn it all. They're united by that purpose. They're there to learn, they're there to survive, and they're there to go on and use these skills later on in their careers and their lives. Very, very interesting to see, and this is what I'm taking away from it anyway.
The biggest challenge out here is acceptance. Accepting that you're in this situation, you don't know how long for, and you need to stay mentally strong to get through it.
So this is actually quite good for people to understand this. And like, I've been in a situation before where I've been in these horrible, horrible places where you're just like, oh my God, if I could just press this button to get out of here now, I'd press this button, or I'd want to press this button. Your part of that little mind tells you that. It's like, I've got to get out of the situation. But, you know, it's not, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. It's not like, oh, I've hit my limit, get me out of here. I've been in some real, you know, in the Marines and in other jobs I've done where I've worked very remotely in harsh, extreme environments, and I've been sitting there, I've been, look, I cannot do that, that's not an option. So you've got to accept. You're in pirate infested waters, you've run out of water, your ship's broken down, you're floating in the middle of the ocean, it's going back and forth side to side, everyone's being sick, everyone's throwing up. You want to get out of there, you do not want to be in that situation, you can't stop being sick, but you want to worry about the security of the ship and the vessel. I've been in that situation, and you've just got to accept it and be like, right, accept it, move on. How can you best get the best out of the situation? And that's what these guys are doing here, and that's what their training here is doing for them, because these guys will probably at some point in their careers be in a similar situation. They'll be in a contact out in some war somewhere where it feels absolutely hopeless, but they're gonna have to tap into this training, this acceptance, and just be like, look, we're not just being able to press a button and get out of here. We have to deal with the situation. We've got to accept the situation we're in. We've got to keep our wits about us, and we've just got to get the way out of it by whatever means necessary.
Situation. In fact, I'm pretty sure we volunteered for it.
Sam and the troop are still away from the warmth of their base, exposed to sub-zero temperatures. They've hardly eaten or slept, and they haven't been told when the exercise will end.
Now, as they're coming into the next day, I'm probably expected to finish potentially in a few hours, but we'll keep them going a little bit longer just to test their mentality and where they're at.
Dislocation of expectation. The Marines use this quite a lot, and it's something that I've seen absolutely break people before. It's when you think that you're at the end. Like, so these guys here, they might think when the sun comes up, exercise is going to be over, because they've not been told that. But when they think it's going to end, it's not going to end, it's going to keep going.
Josh, could you chuck me my gloves, mate?
I think it's about -10, which, in the grand scheme of things, out here isn't that cold. But when you haven't slept, you haven't got any food, it does make you appreciate little things, like a toothbrush. I really want to brush my teeth, but I don't have a toothbrush.
You've been in this survival situation for 18 hours. Some of you, I know, have already eaten your victuals for emergency. Do we think you should be eating your victuals? No is the answer, isn't it? You haven't got a clue how long you could be here for. I could keep you here 3-4 days. That one opportunity you had to keep yourselves going is gone in the first 18 hours. That is poor mental discipline, which is half of the battle out here. Everyone understand where I'm coming from? Away you go.
What they wanted us to understand is that a survival situation doesn't have an end state. You don't know how long you're going to be isolated for.
So it looks like they've got some kind of emergency ration, emergency food that they're not going to eat until the very last minute. And what they used to say to us was, have something absolutely disgusting, have dog food or something like that, something you're not going to want to eat.
Or you've got to train as if that is the case.
Did you eat your emergency victuals?
No, I genuinely didn't.
Target! Body armour, body armour, body armour!
They're practicing their drills, so the best place to do it, end of the flight deck, they haven't got anyone to worry about. The guys will be practicing the shooting there, they're doing body armour drills, basically means they're wearing body armour, so that means you've got to learn to shoot them in the head.
Only 9 or 10 bootnecks on board. They get that there is a time for work, you know, a time for relaxing.
Getting on Montrose at first was a bit of a shock. I knew it was going to be small, but I didn't realise like the coffin-style beds that we were going to stay in. Yeah, the facilities were all right. The gym's good. Cue Tommy now, lifting some weights.
So you're always busy, you're just constantly working, and when you're not working, you're cracking your own fizz and sorting out your own kit, so you need to have a lot of energy and sort of get up and go.
Best thing about being on the ship was the fizz, was the exercise. There'd be some kind of pull-up arm, and they actually seem to have some quite good kit there. When we went on the ships, we actually got the Matlows to weld a metal bar between like a gangway, so that we could do our pull-ups there. And then it would just be like a couple of old rusty dumbbells here and there, and then, you know, on some corner of the ship there might be a treadmill just kind of tucked away. Another part there might be a little cross trainer tucked away, all attached to the side, obviously with ropes so they don't go flying over. And the funny thing is, when you were running on the treadmill, if the ship started lifting inside the side, sometimes the treadmill would just completely turn off. But good thing about the ships was you had the flight decks, you'd be doing sprints along there, so you'd be high intensity interval training on a sprint, circuit training on a flight deck. You'd be running around the perimeter of the ship, and you could do circuit training like that as well, and sprints along the side as well. So you'd always get your fitness in on the ship. And what I used to like about doing it on the ship was, as the ship's going up and down, you start doing exercises like burpees, is you can jump up and down as high as you can, and the ship will go down. It feels like you're flying, like you're really high up. Looks like they've got some great kit on board this ship on Montrose here, so I was glad to see that the Navy have invested in some decent, you know, pull-up equipment, because they know when Marines come on board, they need exercise. If they're not, they're kind of like unruly dogs. They'll just start messing around and causing trouble unless you just get them training every day, and they've got to train every day because they need to be fit for their operations.
Up in the far north of Norway, Sam and his troop are now in the final stages of survival training. But standing between them and success is one last, infamous test of mental and physical strength.
The high north, the Arctic, is covered in frozen lakes, and they're useful for navigation, and not only that, but speed of movement. So being able to cross these frozen lakes is key, because they're key terrain tactically and strategically in this environment.
But after heavy snowfall, many of these lakes can become completely invisible to the naked eye, making crossing them deadly for the unprepared.
Since we've been in Norway, because of how key those frozen lakes are, we've been throwing people into the ice so they can understand the effects of that cold water and that shock. Should the worst happen, you need to know how to react.
I'm excited. This is a big boxing.
Dangerous to do this. People have had heart attacks in this situation. I don't know if any Marines have, but there have been people who've gone, and these are super fit athletes who've gone into cold water and their hearts have just gone into overdrive and they've just died. They've had some kind of heart attack. So very important that safety precautions are undertaken here. The guys are going to be expected to jump in and then be able to pull themselves out unassisted, and then very, very quickly then they're going to have to get themselves dry and rewarmed again. This is where it becomes very important, being able to survive. This can happen in seconds. Somebody their body can just shut down and deteriorate. Very, very good part of the training, and the only way they're going to learn, they're not going to learn in the classroom by saying, yeah, okay, you jump in the cold water and yeah, you got to, you know, it's going to be cold. They're not going to learn that way. They're only going to learn the hard way, doing it. Every single man's got to do it, and they will be a tick in a box whether they pass it or not.
Dagger them in to the side, slide your hand down, okay, and secure yourself.
The icebreaking drill is tried to be made as realistic as possible. What that looks like is a man on skis or snowshoes, and he will have a Bergen on one shoulder and his ski poles held together on another.
Then what he's going to do, confidently, he's going to step out to the edge, look into the horizon, and land in the middle of the ice hole. And there you go.
From there then, he needs to return back to safe ice. So he'll push off to one side and save his kit and equipment. He'll then make his way back to the safe ice and he'll look to secure himself using his ski poles and daggering himself onto that ice. To make sure that we know that they are composed, they ask for permission to leave the ice.
Permission to leave the ice.
You can dunk your head under for splashing me.
And I'll always give a small pause so they don't rush out. It shows me that they are composed and they're not in a complete rush to get out of their little bath.
Okay, permission granted. Come on, dagger, go, now, go.
And it's also a little bit of fun as well.
Rewarming process, very important. They very quickly go from their wet clothes, they take it off and dry themselves very quickly, because when you get cold, all the blood starts to go away from the extremities, they need to warm themselves up. It becomes difficult if it takes too long, because I don't know if you've ever been in a situation before, I certainly have, where you cannot physically move your hands very well, and that's the whole purpose of this. It looks easy at sitting back at home, and they're having the strength to do it, all this, and then the speed to be able to put their clothes back on, but once that happens and all the blood starts to go towards your core to try and protect the internal organs, it becomes very, very difficult to just do a simple thing like put your socks on. It becomes very difficult. Do your bootlaces, it becomes very, very difficult. So that's why they need to do it quickly. They need to be trained and drilled, and that's why they've got to do this training to enable them to be able to do it in a safe-ish environment, because they have got people there. I mean, it's still a dangerous environment, but now that they know what to do, if it happens to them out on operations, out when they're on an exercise, and it could be dark, it could happen, it could take them by surprise, they now know exactly what to do and how to get themselves in a position where they can survive or increase the chance of surviving.
That's when you get out. Oh my god.
The toes.
Toes, yeah.
You can't hide in Norway. You've got to be absolutely all over everything. And if someone's not, pick them up for it.
On board HMS Montrose, intelligence has been received that a fishing vessel in the ship's vicinity may be transporting a large amount of illegal narcotics.
One downstairs, two coming out now. Forward! You! Front! You move to the front now!
I was very happy when the boss gave me that job role being first over. It's a great responsibility to have.
We're going starboard side, yeah? Get the ladder over. All right, lads, up.
First man over the ladder, you don't know how many crew there are or what their state is. You never know what to expect. If I get on and someone pops a corner and then takes me on, I know for a fact that Liam's going to be right behind me. He's literally right at my ass getting on top.
When he's like jumping over the ladder, I fear for anyone on the other side. Like he's one of my war dogs. Closely followed by Liam next to the ladder, my little Manx scrapper.
As the second man on, I'm there as the security for Tommy. Quite a buzz, to be fair. I like doing that. First few minutes on the dhow, it's the most dangerous part of it. They know their vessel, we don't. There's a lot of variables that could happen, but all the lads are attuned to what can happen and what the reaction is.
I don't speak very good Baluchi. I'm not very good at Baluchi. I've got a little trip card, and we sort of have a bit of a chat.
You're not fishing? No, not a chance. Yeah. Where? All of it. How much?
How much? And he was like, 5? Like what? 500 kilo? I was like, no, 5 ton. You're like, oh God. And the lads are just like stepping over the stuff. They can barely move for it. It's at that point that you know, this is a good day. This is a good day.
Intelligence-led operation, and these are the best ones when you're trying to find contraband. Intelligence-led operations, rather than just trying to go, right, we're bored, anything like this. So it looks like what It looks like what they're doing is the right way of doing it now. It looks like that they're, you know, over the years tactics have improved, things have improved. The Navy seem to have improved their side of things. Just when I was in, it was always like we were always ready to do our job. The Navy just seemed like they just couldn't be bothered, or they just wanted to, you know, say everything was good. It looks like now they're actually looking at intelligence. They've had information. This is the Dow. They've gone there. They found it. They've boarded it. They've gone straight on board. They've been very clearly, guys, get to the front. They when intelligence is there for this type of thing, these people might want to defend these drugs. They don't want to be caught. They don't want what's going to happen to them, so they could be in a position where they want to defend themselves and ward off the Marines. Very unlikely when you can see that they've got a helicopter there. They know they're going to have a 50 cal pointed at them. They've got a warship next to them, could easily blow them out of the water, and they've got 2 boats there with Marines armed to the teeth. Very unlikely that a couple of fish, or how many people, probably, you know, 6 to 8 guys on this boat, on this Dow, is very unlikely they're going to want to try and fight them off, because they know they're going to lose. But that being said, they could be suicide bombers. They could quite happily blow themselves up if they know they're going to kill a load of Marines as well. So the guys got to be very careful when they're going on board. It's intelligence led. Could be markers. It could be information to say they have weapons on board as well. They probably have. They've got this amount of drugs. They've got on board there. They've pushed them up to the side, taking control of the situation, being very aggressive, and it means shout at them, you get the front. They've used hand gestures, cleared the way so they're able to get on board. They found the drugs. The guys have tried to deny it initially, but it's very clear there's bags of drugs everywhere. They found it, and now they're going to be confiscating it.
It's the heaviest bust in the region for a decade.
Clear now, top speed. Clear lower deck. Clear lower deck above all ranks and rates. Muster on the flight deck for whole ship photo. Rig will be daily working rig with caps.
That's a funny way of spelling our
What does that say?
I was buzzing, finding the drugs and completely hitting the target. It was mega satisfying. It's just like a complete shock of how much there actually was, and it just makes all the time and effort that we've put into boardings, being up so early, getting in the water all this time, just makes it worth it.
I feel very lucky to be part of this team. We've done all this training, and to see the success of that shows that we are capable of doing that job and doing it well.
Something you could do with bravery to cool you down. Yeah, I swear to God.
It does feel good to be able to prove your worth and prove that you are part of the elite.
We can't do our job without the Navy.
Mum, can we get you in a front with the team?
Particularly the captain, a fine officer. She understood my team, and she understood that she needed to let us work and let us do our job.
What he's saying is crucial. I mean, I've been on some ships, I've been on quite a few ships, and sometimes you're with a captain who he just doesn't seem to want to work with the Marines. He just seems to have it in against them. If they don't see it as part of the same team. Doesn't seem to be that cohesion. Here there seems to be, and look, they've done a successful operation. There's good interaction between the Navy and the Marines here. That's really good to see, and it just shows that that's getting things done, that the job's getting done. The guys are looking good. The guys have made a successful bust. They've made a bit of a joke about it now because they put they've laid it out for the photograph. Very proud of this, obviously. This captain here, she's doing a great job, and you know they should be very proud of what they've done here. They've done a good bit of teamwork, good use of forces and resources, and yeah, excellent to see.
And so it's an achievement up and down the chain. Most of the Marines had never done a deployment before, and they smashed it out of the park.
Episode 2 completed, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you soon. All the best. Bye bye.